Hello, and welcome to the Atlantic Debrief. The Atlantic Debrief is the Atlantic Council Europe Center's internet show and podcast on the most pressing issues of transatlantic concern. My name is Ian Brzezinski. I'm the director of the Three Seas programming here at the Atlantic Council. And with us today, we have Ambassador Romana Vlahutin, Croatia's special envoy for strategic connectivity and the Three Seas initiative. She's responsible for orchestrating the upcoming 3C Summit and Business Forum that will take place in Dubrovnik, Croatia, on the 28th and 29th of April. Ambassador Vlahutin is a senior member of Croatia's diplomatic service, having served as the EU Special Envoy for Connectivity, the EU's ambassador to Albania, and the foreign policy advisor to Croatia's president, among other top national security posts. The ambassador also has a special link to the United States. She was awarded the U.S. Congressional Freedom Act Fellowship that enabled her to attain a master's degree at Harvard University. And she also worked in Washington for a year at the Council of Foreign Relations, where we first crossed paths. Ambassador, welcome to the Atlantic Council's debrief.
Thanks a lot. It's wonderful to see you, at least on the screen again.
Thank you. Our subject today is a primary focus of yours, the Three Seas Initiative, its upcoming summit. The Three Seas is a multinational effort to accelerate the development of cross-border energy, transport, and digital infrastructure in the region between the Baltic, Black, and Adriatic Seas. The initiative was launched in 2016, a decade ago, in Dubrovnik, by Croatia's then president, Kolinda Grabar-Kitarović, along with Poland's president, Andrzej Duda. Today, the initiative consists of 13 member states, with Greece being the latest country to join its ranks. The Three Seas features a unique and groundbreaking investment fund, the Three Seas Initiative Investment Fund, generated out of contributions from the member states as well as from one of the Three Seas strategic partners, the United States. As the institutional core of the Three Seas initiative, the fund was launched to leverage private capital to catalyze the construction of regional infrastructure. This private capital dimension is a defining motivation and feature of the Three Seas. So the Three Seas returns to its launch point in Dubrovnik at the end of April, where its heads of state will convene to map out the initiative's future. So, Ambassador, let me start with a basic question. Let me ask you, why is this initiative important, and what have been its major accomplishments over the last decade?
Thanks. Thanks for your question. This initiative today, I mean, it was very important when it started because there was a clear lack of proper infrastructure links between the countries of sort of towards the eastern border, between the north and the south. And everything, the focus was on trying to bridge that gap. It was very important then, but today, given the geopolitical circumstances that changed in the meantime, I think it's even more important. And in a way, as I'm working on this, what I believe the most consequential connectivity initiative in Europe, it somehow seems to me less a political initiative anymore, more a geoeconomic strategy that is there to benefit not only the countries that are between the Baltic, Black, and the Adriatic Sea, but Europe as a whole, and also support of global trusted value chains that I will try to explain how these countries are really important for.
And give us a sense of some of the projects that the Three Seas is trying to drive forward.
Well, there are traditionally three pillars. One is transport, another is energy, and the third is digital. I just returned from Tallinn. It was a great visit where we were taken to a top notch data center facility that was fully financed by the Three Seas Fund, and is, I think, a model example on how this investment can service the region and the countries, but also Europe, as I already said, because it is a data center facility that services computer and storage needs, not only in Estonia but in the Baltic region as such, and wider. And it really is at the top of the league, and it was it was fantastic to see. There are also other energy projects. There is a renewable energy platform across the region. Then there is investment in the port of Burgas, the largest port of Bulgaria, which proved to be extremely well invested. And in general, what is really interesting when it comes to the investments through the fund is that the return on infrastructure investments was around 13%, which for this type of investment is really large. And it was only in the period of 10 years. Infrastructure investments always need longer time, and the returns are always a little bit less. So the proof of concept is there. This is a region of growth. This is a region of absolutely increased importance for Europe, and this is a region worth investing in.
What about the vertical corridor? There's an energy project that's still evolving. I imagine Croatia has a
It's still
deep interest in
evolving.
that.
It's still evolving. Exactly. That is the one that will support the energy security of Ukraine. One branch goes through Greece, and we hope that another branch, there will be a signature at the margins of the summit that will go through the Croatian LNG port of Krk, both towards Ukraine, so that uh, everyone can wean off and from I can't even say Russian gas, but the sort of supplies that we don't want to be dependent on. And here, these vertical corridors are of great importance for all the countries along the way.
I know here in Washington D.C., where the Atlantic Council has its home, the vertical corridor has always been of great interest, and under the Trump administration, I would say that interest is escalating. Uh, but
Yes,
let me
correct.
touch on the transatlantic dimension. When you look back at the decade of the three C's, every one of the summits have kind of emphasized that the three C's reinforces not only the region, but Europe, but also the transatlantic relationship. Tell us how the three C's is important to the transatlantic relationship, and how has that dimension been manifested in the three C's?
Um, I mean, from the very outset of this initiative and this work, U.S. has been a staunch partner and supporter of what has been built up here. And if you just look at the energy security and the fact that around 60-70% of the LNG imports in the region are from the US, just gives you a dimension of what sort of choice and resilience this partnership gives to the countries in the region. We are working extremely close with colleagues in Washington. We are looking at all pillars of the initiative and sort of the connectivity pieces. And we want to, this year, besides transport, energy, and digital or tech, we want to add the fourth pillar, finance. We want to really focus, double down on what you mentioned at the very beginning. We want to double down on the private investment part. This is of essence. It's a very unique situation when it comes to financing, because you have a region of a rather high growth. The average growth in this region is double the EU average. So that's the baseline. Then you have a region which, in terms of financing, is also deeply anchored to the EU budget. There is, it's a very solid foundation. And what we are working on is the top up part, where it's indispensable to attract private sector so that we can acquire scale that is needed and speed that is needed. And all of this is happening in a predictable environment. So I think for investors, the mix of ingredients here is very, very attractive. Um, Also, when you look at the map, the region goes to the north-south corridor, which now is becoming the main direction of travel in Europe. Before, everything in Europe was east-west. But with the Russian attack on Ukraine, the east-west, especially in the upper part of Europe, has stopped. And it's now of strategic importance for the north to come down to the Mediterranean and to enable this movement of goods, of also this is discussed within the military mobility discussion, etc. Um, the links are becoming even more important. And if you add to that this part of Europe is a natural attaching ground for two main global corridors, one being the middle corridor going through Caucasus towards Central Asia and further east, and another very much growing corridor in the south, the IMEC corridor. This really is a completely new situation than the one we had 10 years ago.
That's a really important point, and it seems that's going to be one of the distinctive dimensions of the Dubrovnik Summit. Tell us a bit more about this theme as an element of the Dubrovnik Summit and business forum that you're orchestrating, and the other kind of deliverables and themes that will define these two events.
Uh, I think when I'm going around at meetings, we didn't do it today, but I always do it. I bring a map with me to show where the region is, and it does 70% of my work. I just need to add a bit of additional numbers and explanations, but it's so clear that the political geography of Europe has changed and that we are now in a situation where, because partly of the Russian attack on Ukraine, but also due to great reconstruction of global value chains, this now becomes an indispensable meeting point. It's also important as a connecting tissue for Ukraine towards Europe, because all work on the Ukrainian infrastructure will have to, in the end, go through this piece of land or lands towards the continent or the rest of the continent. And again, I can't emphasize enough the southern connection. The fact that this brings countries like Poland to the Mediterranean Sea and opens a completely new dimension when it comes to the economic activities and establishment of new value chains. Whether it is in our situation today, we are working on this pivot to Asia dimension. So, GCC countries, and then further into the Indian Ocean and towards the Pacific, in the future towards Africa as well. It is sometimes the real maps are different from mental maps. And in the real map, once you know where the Adriatic is, and I'm at home today in Dubrovnik on the shores of the Adriatic. Once you enter the Adriatic Sea, you're basically 2, 3, 4 hours from Central Europe, from the industrial heart of Europe, from southern Germany. And with proper infrastructure and well-developed port facilities and good logistics system and good rail system, this brings a completely new dimension to our work towards Asian and then I think also African economies. And this is something that some other summit will have to take into account.
That's a great way to kind of end this conversation. I mean, Romana, Ambassador, I love this idea of three C's transforming Poland and the Baltics into Mediterranean states. Three C's,
This is my main. Yeah.
it's links to these global corridors. Three C's is a global gateway. And as you pointed out, with the growth rate in Central and Eastern Europe and the Three C's region, it's dynamic workforce, it's growing economies, but an infrastructure of $1 trillion. If you build it, people will use it and it will be profitable. So these are all important reasons to why everyone should be joining you in Dubrovnik at the end of April on the 28th and 29th, when the Three C's will host its 10th anniversary summit and business forum. Ambassador, thank you
And
very much.
Dubrovnik, thank you. And Dubrovnik at the end of April is also very beautiful. So
Can't argue with that.
that's a cherry on the cake.
And let me thank you to all our viewers of Europe Debrief.
Thank you.